Happy hump day, my friends, and welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. I'm, of course, your host, David. I'm playing humping right there. My fantasy guru, expert, co-host, Mr. Israel Rivera. Welcome to the show, my friends. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And this is the first edition of Fantasy Football Weekly that is going to be on the Huddle Sports Network. So thank you very much for joining us as we break down all the stuff when it comes to fantasy football. Get your lineup set up for week number 11. Izzy, happy hump day, my friend. How are you?
Happy hump day, everybody. I'm feeling great today because last week I went 3-0, baby. Again. I swept all my leagues. And Tyreek Hill won me a fantasy matchup, which I thought I would never say this season with everything that's happening with them. But Tyreek Hill won me a fantasy matchup. I didn't think he was going to play. He was a game-time decision. It was him or I think I had I don't even know who I would have started. Like there was no other wide receivers available.
You would have had to pick up like a DeMarcus Robinson or something. But
I had DeMarcus Robinson.
Who didn't do anything in that game? So you got lucky, super lucky. I
got super lucky. I
played AJ in two separate leagues. I lost him to both of them. My team in AJ's league, like for the league that you were in last year, my team is abysmal in that league. I put up like 60 points. I have CJ Stroud as my quarterback, and CJ Stroud is
league, man.
CJ Stroud has been the most disappointing fantasy player maybe in the league this year.
Hey.
Like
I gotta tell my 9-year-old no more soap.
Oh.
I see you're washing the dishes. Don't overuse the soap, kid. Okay, for all you fathers out there that gotta monitor their sons washing dishes. Anyways,
but yeah, CJ Stroud he has been the most disappointing fantasy player this season. CJ Stroud
has been very disappointing this season.
He's been brutal. Let me tell you.
And you know who's been brutal the last 3 weeks too? Jared Goff. Jared Goff has been single digits the last 3 weeks. I haven't even started him in our league. We have a 2-quarterback league. He's my second quarterback. I haven't even started him. I haven't
been rolling with 2 quarterbacks either in my league either. But I'm 4-6, but I have the third highest points. Make it make sense in the league. Let's get right into it. Let's not waste any more time. By the way, I won all my other matchups. You remember Dan Kenny, right?
Yeah, I remember Dan Kenny.
So I play fantasy football with Dan Kenny still to this day. Yeah, and I use Finance. Yeah, he was at News Nation. Now he's at like a travel company doing like producing for them. Anyways, so yeah, I'm in a fantasy league with him. I've been in there for him for like almost 5-10 years, something like that. My team in his league is stacked. It is so good. I'm the number 1 scoring team in the league. I'm 7-3. I'm just beating people into a fine powder. Like for real, that team is so good.
You got a team like I got a team where I got Derrick Henry.
I got Derrick Henry, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow all in the same team, along with Joe Mixon.
Oh my gosh! That means you had an A+ draft. Like I said, guys, I got Jonathan Taylor, James Cook, and Derrick Henry. I don't know how that league let me have all.
I got Aaron Jones and Kenneth Walker in that same league too.
I got Chase Brown off my bench.
Yeah, my team is stacked in that league. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about them quarterbacks. And my number 1, I just talked about Joe Burrow, man. I just think that he is on a tear, another level tear right now. And he is like, if the Bengals were a lot better, he'd be in the conversation for MVP. But he's going up against the Chargers defense that, they haven't played. Like their wins have been against bad football teams. They haven't really beaten anybody that's worth a damn. And I don't think this defense is as good as it's been this season, at least in, the spirit, like the limited, like the Bengals are going to put them on the test. And I think Joe Burrow is going to have a fantastic game. And then number 2, we also just talked about Jared Goff. I think he's going to have a massive game too. Been a bit of a bounce back game for Jared Goff against the Jacksonville Jaguars in Ford Field. Look for Jared Goff to get back into the, he's been really good, like efficient. Like, he threw 5 picks in that last game, but he's going to be awesome in this one. I might have Jared Goff way too high, but I'm rolling with it. 3, Jalen Hurts. 4, Josh Allen against the Kansas City Chiefs. Look for that to be a really entertaining football game and should have been flexed to Sunday Night Football. 5, Brock Purdy. He's got his weapons back there with Chris McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, and the likes there. Ricky Pearsall's kind of emerged. And number 6, Lamar Jackson. Yeah, a little bit lower on Lamar Jackson than you might expect, but that Pittsburgh Steelers defense, I think, is fantastic. I think they're going to put some pressure against Lamar Jackson. I think that they're going to limit him a little bit, but not enough to take him out of the top 5 or top 6. 7, Justin Herbert. Same thing. Cincinnati's defense is not good. Justin Herbert, I know the weapons aren't exactly there, but I still like Quentin Johnson. I still like Joshua Palmer. I still like J.K. Dobbins out of the backfield. 7, Justin Herbert. 8, Jaden Daniels. I think it's a tough matchup against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are playing really good football, especially in the secondary. I could see this be a game where he struggles a little bit. Not Jordan Love, as much as it pains me to put him here, going up against my Chicago Bears, but I think he's going to have a good game against the Bears. The Bears look finished. They look depleted. They look like they just could not care less. 10, Russell Wilson. This Baltimore Ravens defense is just not good.
Love.
Yeah. I see it. And then Bo Nix, we're on the same league. This is the first time I've had Bo Nix in my top 13 since we started doing rankings earlier this season. I kind of like what they've seen out of Bo Nix, and I think they have a pretty favorable matchup here going up against the Atlanta Falcons. I think that could be a game where he puts up some numbers. 2, Jameis Winston going against the New Orleans Saints. The Saints, their defense hasn't been good. Jameis Winston still can sling it, and I think he will sling it in this game. And then number 3, I got Sam Darnold. Then my sneaky daily, I got Jameis Winston as well at 5,500.
5,500, Jameis Winston. I like it because I think he is going to throw a few touchdowns. I think that they're gonna let him gunsling. Like, hey, our season's over. Kevin Stefanski's probably gonna get fired in the offseason. Just go he
for
shouldn't get fired though. He's a 2-time coach of the year. Why is he getting fired?
But he's.
They made the playoffs last year with Joe Flacco. Why would he get fired this year?
I'm just saying it could happen. It could happen.
That would be terrible if they fired Kevin Stefanski. I will go to the Cleveland Browns headquarters and riot because that would be so wrong with them.
I low key hope that does happen just so I can see you drive all the way to Cleveland so you can riot.
Yeah, I would, man, dude. No way, 2-time coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski. No,
I'm telling you, it could happen.
Anyways, my number 1 guy is Jalen Hurts. He is on a tear lately, especially running the football. He has 4 rushing touchdowns in the last 2 games. Jalen Hurts has been phenomenal, and the wide receiver core is getting healthy. AJ Brown, I think AJ Brown missed last week's game against Jacksonville.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
He didn't. Did no. He was there. It's yeah. Sure. Well, Devontae Smith was the I think the leading receiver in that game, if I'm not mistaken. But anyways, this week, it's got a great matchup this week. So. Anyways, at number 2, I got Lamar Jackson. Yeah, anyways, look, you could say Lamar Jackson slipping because of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think any defense is going to hold Lamar. I think Lamar has a great game.
If there was a defense to do it, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. If there was a defense that could do it, it's the Steelers.
They better get home. Because otherwise it's going to be a long day for them.
100%.
And number 3, I got Joe Burrow. Yes, I do like Joe Burrow going up against the Los Angeles Chargers. He's been on a tear. He's been on MVP form. Since the beginning, since like the slow start to the season, he's been on an MVP form. So
he's 20-5. He's or something like that, something absurd. Like he's throwing like
it's something that he's got a crazy touchdown interception ratio right now going. And then at number 4, I got Josh Allen, who probably
24-4.
It's what's that? What is that? 3-1?
Yeah,
3-1. Like
it's better than that. It's 8-1.
That's
or something like that. Math is, I'm
not. Yeah, I'm not the greatest mathematician off the top of my head. Anyways, at number 4, I got Josh Allen.
It's not 8-1. That math isn't good either. I don't know.
Anyway,
6-1 for sure.
Hey, this is why we got degrees in journalism. Okay, guys.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That is very true. We were not destined to be your accountants. Okay. No. Anyways, at number 4, I got Josh Allen, who would be winning the MVP, who should be the front runner of the MVP if it wasn't for Lamar Jackson. I feel so bad for Josh Allen because he had these great seasons, and then Lamar Jackson just has the even better one.
Or Aaron Rodgers,
or Aaron Rodgers, or Patrick Mahomes, or whatever. And then at number 5, I got Jordan Love. Yeah, that's why I said, you see where I got Jordan Love. I think Jordan Love is going to have an excellent game against the Chicago Bears.
I think the Bears are checked out. They are not going to be remotely competitive in this game.
Then I got Russell Wilson going up against the Baltimore Ravens defense, who's the worst in the league at the moment. Russell Wilson's going to have a nice little day. Him and George Pickens, which we'll talk about later. At number 7, I got Jaden Daniels. Jordan Daniels, it's going to have a tough sledding against that Philadelphia Eagles defense, especially there's another rookie on the other side of that defense who's looking like the next shutdown corner in the NFL, and Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. The kid has just been he's shut down every single top wide receiver in the league so far this season that's been put in front of him. It's including the almighty Jamar Chase, who's on a crazy tear this year so far. Just had 200 yards last week. And number 8, I got Brock Purdy. 9, CJ Stroud. Yeah, man. I mean, you don't have CJ Stroud in your top 10. I still believe in him. I have him on.
I have to start him in that AJ's league because I have nobody else. But CJ Stroud he's on my shit list for sure.
He's on the shit list. Yeah, well, I have him in 2 fantasy football leagues, and I got Jalen Hurts in 1 fantasy football league. So owning CJ Stroud is a little frustrating so far this year. But
it's not really all his fault. I mean, like, you expected him to have Stephon Diggs, you expected him to have Nico Collins. He hasn't had either of those 2 guys the last couple of weeks. But like even before that, he wasn't putting up big numbers. This offensive line isn't playing all that well, and they have Joe Mixon. Like, they don't have to have CJ. They don't have to have CJ Stroud go out and win them games. Like, they have other options right now.
Well, they didn't start off the season with Joe Mixon, if I'm not mistaken, when he missed like the first couple games.
Well, he played the first week, and then he missed like 3 weeks in a row. But during those 3 weeks, CJ Stroud wasn't remotely good in any of those either. So
right. So they had a lack of a running game. Nico Collins came out on fire. He got injured. He's coming back this weekend, so that's going to help them a lot. And then
he's thrown for like the quietest 2,300 yards I can ever remember. Like, he's thrown for 2,300 yards, but he has more passing yards than Josh Allen. He has more passing yards than like Aaron Rodgers. Not that it's saying a whole lot. Like Stafford,
Sam
Darnold, Jared Goff. Like, he hasn't gotten touchdowns, and he's thrown a lot of picks.
And he's supposed to be honestly, let's be like where people drafted CJ Stroud, top 5 quarterback. He should have been a top 5 quarterback this season. He's been in the low end of the top 10, outside the top 10. And then rounding out my top 10 is Justin Herbert, because who's got it better than us? Nobody. Justin Herbert at number 10. I like that matchup against Cincinnati. And then my outside looking in, I agree with you, Bo Nix. He's gotten better and better. With every start that he's had under Sean Payton. Number 2, I got Tua Tagovailoa, and then Sam Darnold right on my outside looking in. And then obviously I made these rankings yesterday, so I put
before the announcement. Even before that announcement, I'm not touching anything going on with the Colts with a 10-foot pole. Like, outside of Jonathan Taylor.
I'm gonna make a switch up here, and I'm gonna go Anthony Richardson at 6,400. I think I saw some things in that offense where Anthony Richardson can expose some defenses. Now, obviously, they'll keep more in the box and they'll keep a spy on him, but I think Anthony Richardson needs to just go out there and play football. I think he'll run the football tremendously well this week. I think that Anthony Richardson, obviously, there's a big mental hurdle, but he's going against the right team, right? He's going against a team in the New York Jets who is in shambles, who just hasn't had their footing since forever. So I like the matchup. Anthony Richardson, 6,400. Why not roll the dice? He's got a chip on the shoulder too. You benched me for a couple games for old man Joe Flacco because of the things I said. And it was almost like let's
not get it twisted. It wasn't just because of the things he said. He was playing poorly. He was completing 30% of his passes. Like, we had the worst completion percentage in the history of the NFL. It was worse than Jamarcus Russell, historically the worst bust in the history of the league. Like, if Anthony Richardson had been gunslinging and playing well, nobody would have cared. And like, hey, he said that he needed to tap out of a game. As embarrassing as it would have been, like, oh, hey, this guy's balling. We're not gonna. It's fine. But he was stinking up the place, and they're like, oh, we gotta pull him. Like, you just can't.
Shane Steichen put him in timeout for 2 games, and now he says, okay, now you can.
Another thing, they thought that Joe Flacco would be this cure-all remedy, and he stunk up the place for 2 games and reminded people, like, hey, I'm 39 years old, and I can't play anymore.
And I'm slow as dirt. And he's like, dude, I came to Indianapolis. To mentor this kid, not to play actual football. I can't actually just mentor this kid, like, for real.
Yeah.
Like, he steps away from, like, he's Joe Flacco is probably going to be a head coach someday in this league. I think he'll be a quarterback coach. He'll be a head coach one day in this league. and he's basically a coach with pads on. Like, imagine, your damn quarterback coach going out there to sling the ball. Like, come on, man. No.
Yeah,
Anyway,
for real. Moving on from there, let's talk about them running backs and let you have the floor first.
Number 1 is Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, Christian McCaffrey had over.
Baby, back where he belongs, the top 5 of fantasy rankings.
Back where he belongs. Yes, he's going against a good matchup. Has a good matchup with Seattle. He had over 100 yards, scrimmage yards last week. I think he does a little bit more against Seattle this week, and we'll see a couple touchdowns out of Christian McCaffrey for sure this week. At number 2, I got Joe Mixon. Yes, I think Joe Mixon. His streak ended in the last game of not having 100 yards because he rushed for 100 yards, I think, every single game that he's played this season, except for the one against Detroit. I think he breaks that again this week against Dallas, for sure against Dallas. Number 3, Saquon Barkley. At number 4, I got Derrick Henry. Yeah, Derrick Henry going against Pittsburgh. I still like that matchup. I think he's good for another touchdown or two there in the red zone. At number 5, I like Devon Achane going against Vegas. I like Devon Achane because of his pass catching ability out the backfield. I think he's a guy that can catch about 5 to 7 balls and turn them up for you. So I like Devon Achane at number 5. At number 6, Alvin Kamara, another guy that can catch the ball out the backfield. He's got a good matchup as well in the Cleveland Browns. Well, I wouldn't say good matchup, but I mean that team's just not where it should be. At number 7, I like Jahmyr Gibbs. At number 8, Bijan Robinson. And at number 9, Josh Jacobs. And the only reason I got Josh Jacobs lower on this board is because I think that some of the other running backs that they have, Chris Brooks, Emmanuel, and then you're getting Marshawn Lloyd back. I think some of those guys that get some tick. And I've heard some rumbles. I don't know if they're true, but Josh Jacobs has complained about not getting the ball enough. And I'm not sure if those rumors are true, but if they are true, I don't think he needs to get the ball enough against Chicago because I think the game will be over with by the third quarter. Yeah, but I think Josh Jacobs still a top 10 running back. And then at number 10, I got Jonathan Taylor going up against the Jets. Jonathan Taylor rushed for 100 yards in the first half and then rushed for like 70 in the second half against the Bills. And he was on pace to get like 200 yards, bro. And then just 7 yards in the second half. And it was a close game for the majority of the game. JT running out my top 10. And then on my outside looking in, I got Chase Brown, Breece Hall, and Nick Chubb going up against the New Orleans Saints. I think whoever has the better, like we said, whoever has the better matchup in that game probably wins between Nick Chubb and Alvin Kamara. Then my sneaky option in FanDuel is Audric Estime, pride and joy of Notre Dame Fighting Irish, baby. 5,400 yards. The Denver Broncos running back, rookie running back, is looking in line to get more. The crazy thing about that is he went from Audric Estime went from like the 3rd running back on their depth chart to being like the number 1 guy there last week. Like I don't know where that came from or how that happened, but like he led them in carries, he led them in touches, he led them in yards. What happened to Javonte Williams? What happened to Jordan McLaughlin? Neither of those guys played significant snaps. And what happened to the other guy that was with Tyler Batty, who was like on their team for a while? Like, okay, Denver. 14 carries, 53 yards for Audric Estime. Sean, he just, that's a Sean Payton thing, right? Sean Payton's like, I'm gonna, because Sean Payton always ruins players sometimes, especially. I guess so. Look what he did to Russell Wilson. Okay, come on now.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then Audric Estime's he's like, look, I'm gonna start my 3rd string running back over you two guys because you guys aren't doing anything. So whatever. Moving on
from your running backs, let's talk about mine. And I got Joe Mixon at number 1. We've seen when CJ Stroud, when the Houston Texans give Joe Mixon the football, good things happen with his offense. And they're going up against the Dallas Cowboys defense that is not good, and especially not good against the run. Joe Mixon, my number 1 running back this week. And then Chris McCaffrey at number 2. Good to see him back on the football field. He didn't seem to have a snap count. He was very activated in the offense. He's a plug-and-play guy for the rest of the season. 3, Kyron Williams. I know he had the fumbles. I know he didn't play particularly well against the Miami Dolphins, but I think this is a much better matchup for the Rams this week as they go up against, sorry, I got to look this up, for the New England Patriots. As I say that, as they just decimated the Chicago Bears this past recent Sunday, so who knows anymore. 4, Saquon Barkley. I think that he's going to have a good game against the Commanders tomorrow. 5, King Henry. And it kind of pains me a little bit to have him this low. I know he was at 5, but he's usually like in the top 2 when it comes to my fantasy football rankings. But that Steeler defense is big time. I think they're going to limit the effectiveness of Derrick Henry. So I think, temper your expectations a little bit. And then 6, Alvin Kamara. I expect him to have 1 billion touches in this game. Similar to what they did against their last week against the Atlanta Falcons. Alvin Kamara will have over 20 touches combined in this game. 7, Josh Jacobs. The Bears are just not good, and they're just done for this year. And I think Josh Jacobs and the Green Bay Packers are going to expose, hopefully it'll be the last game Matt Eberflus ever coaches in Chicago, as Josh Jacobs runs all over the football field. And 8, Dave Montgomery. I think it's a toss-up between Jahkyr Gibbs and Dave Montgomery. Which one of those 2 guys you want to start? I'm going to roll with Dave Montgomery. No reason behind it. I'm just rolling with him. 9, J.K. Dobbins. Cincinnati's been pretty weak against the run. J.K. Dobbins has had a really nice season and should be in the running for comeback player of the year if he doesn't not win that award outright. He has been deserving of this award. I know everybody's going to talk about Aaron Rodgers, blah, blah, this. J.K. Dobbins came from back-to-back seasons where he tore his Achilles and his ACL, did not play for basically 2 years. He deserves to win this award based on how he's played this season. Give the guy the award for sure. 10, Aaron Jones. I know he's banged up a little bit, but I think he's going to play. I think he's going to play well against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And then my outside looking in, I got Kareem Hunt for the Kansas City Chiefs. I know Isaiah Pacheco has returned to practice and will probably play. So that does change how I feel about Kareem Hunt. If Pacheco doesn't play, Kareem Hunt is a definite bench. I would not touch him at all. So keep that in mind if you're a Kareem Hunt holder. I would keep an eye on Isaiah Pacheco's status.
I don't think so, though, David. We had this conversation a couple weeks ago. And I think
if Isaiah Pacheco returns, he will be number 1 running back there in Kansas City. And Kareem Hunt will be relegated to third down work at best.
I think they will split carries, man.
I disagree.
They will have a timeshare. I don't think Isaiah Pacheco will take it because Kareem Hunt has played so well since he's been out of commission that Kareem Hunt deserves a right to.
I think he'll be the third. I think he'll be the third down guy. I just don't see a scenario where he's the bell cow. He's taking all the snaps. I would bet if I had Kareem Hunt, I wouldn't be starting him if Isaiah Pacheco is a good.
I mean, I think we're only saying that right now because of what they paid Pacheco.
No, it doesn't matter. But I would say Isaiah Pacheco is the better running back, and he's the better fit in what this offense does. Anyways, number 2, Jonathan Taylor Thomas for the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, I kind of like that matchup for him against the New York Jets. And then Devon Achane, he has just lightning speed. He can break one at any time. I know he didn't play particularly well against the Los Angeles Rams, but he had 1 billion touches, and he's good as Raheem Mostert has been basically scapegoated out of that offense, and we have barely seen him. He's been doing kick returns, which is strange because the guy led the NFL in touchdowns last season. For him to basically be a non-factor in the running game is real head scratching for me. And then my sneaky day, I got Tyler Goodson of the Indianapolis Colts. He caught a touchdown last week, reliable running back out of the backfield. And then Audric Estime from Notre Dame is also on there at 4,500. I think it's a good roll the dice on both of those 2 guys. I would be more cautious about Goodson than I would be Estime. I think Estime is a must start in all daily fantasy setups.
Talking about Raheem Mostert, it's weird to me that he does get benched. For I think Wright, is it Ray Wright or that from Tennessee, the rookie from Tennessee, took his snaps because he had some good games. I mean, he came back, he had a couple and he ran for 50 yards. I think in the back-to-back games he ran for 50 and then 40 in a limited role in back-to-back games. He had 2. I think he had a touchdown in the first game he came back from. On the red zone. So it's really weird that he's been relegated back to kick return roles. Like what?
Yeah, I don't get it. Like the dude was a touchdown machine last season, and now he's got 55 carries on the entire season. He had no carries at all against the Los Angeles Rams, and he had 10 carries against Buffalo. He had 2 touchdowns against the Arizona Cardinals the week before that, but it's just real.
I will say this. Usage. I will say this. I think he did get put a little in that doghouse when he lost that fumble 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was having a good game. Then he lost the fumble on the sideline
You're
when they
getting
were
photo
driving. Huh?
You're getting photobombed right now.
I am. I'm trying to keep my composure. It's all good. Just keep the show rolling.
Moving on from there, let's talk about them wide receivers. I got Jamar Chase as my number one guy, coming off a 55-point performance, going up against his defense that he should be able to have a massive game against the Los Angeles Chargers. And then I got the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just think, going against the Jacksonville Jaguars, that secondary is not really worth a damn there in Jacksonville. Amon-Ra St. Brown also, he has not dropped a pass. I don't know if that's still the case. Up until last week, he had not dropped a pass that he was the target of from Jared Goff. So that's a crazy number. And then Justin Jefferson at number 3. Yeah, it might be a little low, but I just think those other two guys are just better options this week. It's nothing against Justin Jefferson. He's a fantastic fantasy football player, and he's a must start in all formats. But if those other two guys just have better matchups in this particular week. And then 4, I got Deebo Samuel Sr. He's not going to get the touches in the running game that he got as much, but I think that's a good matchup against. I know he's probably going to get. But man, his name is totally escaping me. The corner, Witherspoon, there, but I think he's going to have a good game there. 5, AJ Brown tomorrow night, and then back to the other guy, Terry McLaurin in the same game. 7, Drake London. 8, Calvin Ridley. I think Calvin Ridley's just been quietly a really productive fantasy football player, and now that they've kind of gotten rid of DeAndre Hopkins, he's kind of getting a haul of the touches. 9, Cooper Kupp. 10, Nico Collins. Yeah, I think this is the game that he returns. I think he has a big game against the Dallas Cowboys in the Battle of Texas. And then my outside looking in, I got George Pickens, who's just making insane catches with Russell Wilson as his quarterback. Cortland Sutton going against the Atlanta Falcons. He's also has one of the best catch radiuses in the NFL. And then I think DK Metcalf returns from his injury. He's on number 3 on the outside looking in. And then my sneaky and daily is Tyler Wallace of the Baltimore Ravens at 3,300. Had a massive game against the Cincinnati Bengals. He had that long touchdown. He also was really involved in the passing game, more involved than the guy they traded for, Deontay Johnson, was. So I think that's something to note. And then my other stinking daily is Malik Washington at 3,100. Got a rushing touchdown in that game, and then he was also pretty involved in the passing game. At 3,100, I think it's worth the dice roll.
Absolutely.
I didn't mention, he plays for the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah. Is it Malik Washington? Yeah.
Yeah.
So my number one guy on the list is Jamar freaking Chase. The guy's on another atmosphere right now, and he's going up against a secondary that's a little suspect. And like we said earlier, hasn't really beaten anyone significant so far this year. At number 2, I got Justin Jefferson. I do like that matchup. And then, yes, I am high, and not because he's back starting in my lineup and I got something to prove by putting him there. Nico Collins is at number 3 going against that Dallas Cowboys defense. How about them Cowboys? Well, Nico Collins is going to show you how about them. Here we go. Yeah, when you hear Cooper Rush say that, it just doesn't have the same.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't have the same oomph in it, right? At number 3, I got Nico Collins, like I said. Number 4, Amon-Ra St. Brown. The guy's been absolutely fantastic this season. And then number 5, I got AJ Brown going against the Washington Commanders to round out the top 5. And then at number 6, I got George Pickens. So I'm a lot higher on George Pickens than you are, going up against the Baltimore Ravens secondary that is god-awful this year. I like George Pickens to have a big game. At number 7, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua. Both of those guys have similar fantasy value, in my opinion. And as long as they're both on the field, they're both going to be there in the top 10, in my opinion. Especially if like Kyron Williams doesn't have they don't get the running game going. Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are obviously mainstays in that offense with Matthew Stafford. And it's crazy. Matthew Stafford just, he just turns out, he just gets these great wide receivers, and his whole career. He had Calvin Johnson, then he goes to LA. He's got Cooper Kupp and OBJ, and now he's got Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua now, who just had, came out of nowhere last year, and has just been a superstar on level of wide receiver. At number 9, Terry McLaurin, and then round out my top 10 is Jackson Smith and Jigba. Yes, I like him over DK Metcalf this week, and I think DK Metcalf, if he's going to play against the San Francisco 49ers and get a lot of attention, and Jack Smith-Njigba has turned it up so far this season. That game he had against the Rams 2 weeks ago was a magnificent game, probably his best game in his football career. I don't know what he did in high school, so whatever. I know he's All-American. I'm pretty sure he had a great high school career, great games in high school. But, I mean, as a pro. And then run on my outside looking in, I have Garrett Wilson, Jaden Reed, and Zay Flowers. And then my cheap option in FanDuel is Ricky Pearsall at 5,800. He had himself a nice game last week. I expect Ricky Pearsall, guys like Jawan Jennings, to kind of step in and fill in that void where Brandon Ayuk was at.
Ricky Pearsall got his first NFL touchdown this most recent week. He's a little more expensive on DraftKings, or else he would have been my choice as well. But yeah, 5,800 for him, I think, is really good value. From there, let's talk about the bulkier pass catchers. Let's talk about them tight ends, and we both got the same three guys at 1, 2, and 3.
Yes, and you know what? I'll say this. Hey, you know what? Since there's been the passing of the torch. Okay,
there hasn't been.
No, there's been a passing of the torch. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna piss people off. I'm gonna piss you off right now, David. You know what? Just leave Brock Bowers there, number 1, until he gets that gold jacket and can, okay? Because he's my number 1 tight end. He'll be my number 1 tight end the rest of the freaking season. And then at number 2, the guy who passed the torch to Brock Bowers as the number 1 tight end in the league is Travis Kelce. Yes, Travis Kelce is at number 2. It's a new era of tight end, and Brock Bowers said it's my world, and everybody else is living in it.
The big factor here for Brock Bowers, not to cut you off or anything, but like there is nobody else there in Las Vegas. Like when you look at their wide receiving core, you look at the other weapons on this team, Brock Bowers should have like over 10 targets easy every single week, no matter what.
Does.
Like and like when you get like what are you gonna throw it to Jacoby Myers, Trey Tucker, whoever else is wide receivers on that team? I know Michael Mayer is still there, but you know I think the ship has sailed on him a little bit. Brock Bowers, because of the target share, is the reason he's number 1 in fantasy. He's not the best tight end in the NFL, though. Get out of here.
He's the best tight end in the NFL. Don't let them fool you.
Oh, okay.
Don't let them fool you. At number 3, I got George Kittle. At 4, Evan Ingram. I really battled with TJ Hawkinson and Evan Ingram. I've actually had both of them in the league, and I've started TJ Hawkinson over Evan Ingram. I'm about to start him again this week. TJ Hawkinson over Evan Ingram this week. So
you have really Evan Ingram ranked higher, and yet you're still starting Hawkinson over Evan Ingram.
Yeah, I battled it. All right. Well, no, I set my lineups today, David. Damn it. I set my rankings last night, and I set my lineups today. So. God, can you give me some slack here?
Sorry.
Yeah. So, but if I was to do my rankings again, I would actually put TJ Hawkinson over Evan Ingram and slip him down to number 6. So, yeah. Anyways, and then at number 5, I got David Njoku. At 7, I got Tucker Kraft, who I think is going to have a big game against the Chicago Bears. 8, Cole Kmet. I think this new offensive coordinator, whoever he is, I don't know who he is, but whatever he does, I think he's going to figure out that Cole Kmet needs to be more involved in the offense. And Cole Kmet's going to be more involved in the offense against the Green Bay Packers this week. At number 9, I got Sam Laporta. And then round on my top 10 is Mike Gesicki from the Cincinnati Bengals. And then on my outside looking in, I got Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, and Zach Ertz going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. And then my cheap option in FanDuel is Jonnu Smith at 5,100. From the Miami Dolphins.
I like it. I like it. You see where I have Jonnu Smith on my rankings. From your rankings to mine, I got Brock Bowers at number 1. I think he's the best fantasy tight end in the NFL right now, but he's not the best reality tight end. Let's get it. Let's keep things a buck here. But in terms of fantasy, he's the best fantasy tight end in the NFL right now. 2, Travis Kelce. He's been on an absolute tear over the last month. He's like, hey, remember, like people thought I was washed at the beginning of the season. Like not so fast. 3, George Kittle. 4, David Njoku. 5, Evan Ingram. I'm really high on Evan Ingram. Not as high as you are, or just about as high as you are. But I like Evan Ingram. I like the matchup. I think Mac Jones is going to look for Evan Ingram. 6, Mark Andrews. Isaiah Likely, I think, is still out for this particular matchup. Mark Andrews has been on a tear the last couple of weeks. I think he's got 4 touchdowns in 3 weeks. So, yeah, plug and play. He's back to being a tight end 1 status for the Baltimore Ravens and in fantasy. Number 7, Sam Laporta. He just seems to catch gadget-type touchdowns every single week, so just keep rolling with him. 8, Hunter Henry. I know Austin Hooper actually had a better game, but I think also Hunter Henry is more involved in like just more everyday plays there for the New England Patriots. 9, Mike Gesicki. Yeah, I'm pretty high on Mike Gesicki. I think he's going to have a good game. He's my tight end probably for the rest of the season in the greatest people because I cannot upgrade that position anymore. I guess it's just I'm stuck. And then Jonah Smith of the Miami Dolphins. I just like how they use him in the passing game. You remember a few years ago when Jonah Smith was in Tennessee, like people thought he was going to be like the next up-and-coming tight end. I mean, never really worked out that way. But people thought he was going to be like when he was there with Delaney Walker, like Jonah Smith, people thought he was going to be really good. And then he signed a free agency deal with somebody, just never really panned out, never really, ever really became relevant again.
This is the New England Patriots, right?
Yeah, something like that.
England, yeah.
But he's relevant again now because he's on a team where they have some injuries at the wide receiver position. So look for him to be involved in the
Atlanta. He went to Atlanta after Tennessee. I think he went to Tennessee.
No, I think I went to New England first. I don't know. I don't remember, but and then Tucker Kraft on the outside looking in. I just don't think the Green Bay is going to have to do that much on offense in order to beat the Bears. So they may just take the foot off the gas pedal by halftime, unless they really want to drive Evan Eberflus out of town, which they should. 2, Taysom Hill. Yeah, he just wanted to be going back to be that gadget guy, being used all over the place. And then number 3, T.J. Hockenson on my outside looking in. For the Minnesota Vikings. He's gotten more and more involved in the passing game every single week that he's returned. And then Austin Hooper at 2,900 is my sneaky and daily. Yeah, he led the New England Patriots in targets, led the New England Patriots in passing yards last year, receiving yards. So I think he's kind of one of those guys that could be valuable in daily, especially at 2,900, which is real cheap.
Yeah, no, I like that Austin Hooper. And I totally disagree with TJ Hockenson being down that low on your rankings, man. I feel like he's the top 7 tight end this week. If he had a nice game last week, he's going up against a Tennessee team. I know they're like top 10 in terms of passing yards, per play or something like that. But
yeah, I mean, he had 8 catches, 72 yards. You may be right. I may be too low on TJ Hockenson. You may be correct.
Yeah, and that's the only doubt. Only thing I have against it, and I rarely do that with you, but yeah. I think T. Hockenson is a lot higher than where you got him.
You might be right. Moving on from the tight end rankings, let's talk about the other side of the football and we go to the defense. I got a bunch of defenses that are playing bad offenses, including our top 3 guys are the same in this ranking as well as they were in the tight ends. Lions, Packers, Vikings, 1, 2, 3, representing the NFC North. Lions going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, Packers going up against my Chicago Bears, Vikings going up against Tennessee Titans. And Will Levis, actually last week against the who they play? I don't remember who they played last week. The Tennessee Titans did, but first game of this season where he didn't turn it over and have like a Will Levis type play. But I think that does not stay the case against the Minnesota Vikings. Then Minnesota, I got the Miami Dolphins at number 4. I got the 5. I got the San Francisco 49ers. I just think that their defense is going to be good. Yeah, the Chargers. Yeah, Chargers. He had his first game where he didn't turn it over in hilarious fashion, going up against the Chargers. Then Miami going against the Las Vegas Raiders with their dicey ass quarterback position, and then outside looking in, I got the Houston Texans going against Cooper Rush and the Dallas Cowboys, or the kid, or man, his name has totally escaped me.
Trey.
Thank you. And then the Atlanta Falcons, and then my outside, and then sneaky other one is the New York Jets, and then my sneaky and daily is actually the Cleveland Browns at 2,600 going up against the New Orleans Saints. We've seen this Saints offense really sputter. They were good against the Falcons, and they were decent against Carolina, but this Browns defense is still good. Should give some fits to that offensive line for the New Orleans Saints. Browns.
That's crazy that you have the Browns as your sneaky option in FanDuel. Yes, well, starting with my rankings, 1, 2, and 3 are the same as David. Lions, Packers, Vikings all have great matchups against pretty much abysmal offenses. And number 4, I like the Houston Texans against the Dallas Cowboys. Going up against, like you said, Trey Lance, Cooper Rush, doesn't matter. I like the Texans going up at defense in that matchup. And then on the outside, I'm around the top 5. I got the Miami Dolphins this week. And then my outside looking in, and the Miami Dolphins going against the Vegas Raiders, who I don't even know who their quarterback is. Is it Aiden O'Connell? Is it who? Is it Gardner Minshew?
I have no idea. It could be Desmond Ritter.
Is it Desmond Ritter? Is the guy from is it Uncle
know.
Rico? Is it the guy from 7-Eleven? I mean, who knows?
Who knows, dude?
Who knows? Anyways, on the outside looking in, I got the 49ers, the Rams, and the Broncos. I like the Broncos this week going up against Atlanta. It's tough to play in Mile High at any time, at any point in of the season. And I like that Broncos defense, man. That Broncos defense is a top 10 unit, and they should give Atlanta some fits in their stadium. And then my cheap option in FanDuel is the opposite of what David has. It's actually the New Orleans Saints at 3,900. I think James Winston is a turnover machine as always, and he'll throw about 3 of them to the New Orleans Saints this week. Roll the dice, 3,900 New Orleans Saints win against the Cleveland Browns. Somebody's got to play terrible.
It's true. It's true. As we do every single week here on Fantasy Football Weekly, we're first going to try. You're going to try to predict who the number one scorer in fantasy was this week. It should not be hard.
Come on now, Jamar Chase.
So Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, and Bijan Robinson rounding out the top 5 when it comes to fantasy. Who do you think, when it's all said and done, will be the number one scorer in fantasy this week?
Damn, I got to go back on the. I wonder if I think I said a wide receiver last week. I think I might have said Jamar Chase. No, I said Lamar Jackson. I don't know. I picked somebody in that game to be number one. Anyways, when it's all said and done, you know what? He wasn't number one on my list. He wasn't number one on my list, but give me Nico Collins. He's number 3 on my list of wide receivers. He's number 3 on my list of wide receivers. And you know what? I think Nico Collins is going to have a monstrous game against the Dallas Cowboys. Let's look for 3 touchdowns, over 175 yards, 10 catches. In Jerry World.
Swinging down I'm staying in that same game. I'm staying with that same team, but I'm going in a different position. I'm taking Joe Mixon as the number one scorer when it's all said in fantasy. I think he'll have over 100 yards rushing. I think he'll have 2 all-purpose touchdowns. That includes 1 on the ground and 1 in the air. I think Joe Mixon's going to have a fantastic football game. He's going to push over 150 all-purpose yards in this game. Joe Mixon. If you got Joe Mixon,
I think in order for him to be top, he had to push 200 all-purpose yards. In my opinion.
I mean, if he gets
250 rushing, 50 passing.
We're talking. I mean, if he gets like 5 catches, he has 50 yards receiving, he has 100 yards rushing, he has 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's what is it? 10
like
plus
20,
another 10,
like 28, 26 points.
Yeah, that'll. Yeah,
29 points.
We'll see. Yeah. But Joe Mixon's my pick. Thank you. But yeah, thank you very much for hanging out with us here at Prime Sports World. It's our 2024 fantasy football rankings for week number 11. Hopefully this show helps you get your lineup set up for week number 11. Thank you very much for joining us. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, as this is the first version of Fantasy Football Weekly that is on the Huddle Sports Network. We thank that network very much for inviting us to be a part of their shows and their lineups. We very much appreciate it. We're also on YouTube, we're on Facebook, and we're on Twitch. So go check us out in all of those places. We also have the streaming platform website. You can check us out over there. But yeah, I'm David Huppman right there. Israel Rivera. Izzy, what do we do? Hit the prime, my friend.
We bring the heat, ladies and gentlemen. Bring in the heat, young man.
Yes, sir. Izzy will be back here tomorrow with the crossover. And thinking on Friday, you're doing college football showdown. So keep an eye out for all that stuff.
College football playoff rankings.
Yeah. But yeah, we'll be back here tomorrow. You guys all have a good night. Stay safe out there. On point. Out.